As you probably expected, the United States was divided during the Civil War. What you probably don't know was that it was a little more complicated than simply the North versus the South. But let's start with the basics first. What do we mean when we say the North? Well, the phrase the North is synonymous with the United States, or the Union as it was commonly called during the war. Most of the northern states were free states, or states where slavery was illegal. We tend to think that all of the states that fought for the U.S. during the war were free states. That is not true. 4 slave states, Missouri, Kentucky, Maryland, and Delaware, officially stayed loyal to the United States during the war. West Virginia was added to this list when it broke away from Virginia and claimed allegiance to the United States in 1863. These 4 slave states, plus West Virginia, were called the border states. Why border states? Well, because they were on the border of both the U.S. and Confederate States of America, or they were in the middle of the North and South. Even though these states officially stayed with the U.S., people living in these states were often divided. They were split between supporting the United States and the Confederate States. Neighbor versus neighbor and family versus family violence was constant in the border states during the Civil War. Speaking of the Confederate States, what do we mean when we use that term? The Confederate States of America consisted of the states that broke away or seceded from the United States and formed their own country called the Confederate States of America. They seceded or broke away in the months after Lincoln was elected president in November of 1860. The Confederate States appointed Jefferson Davis as their president. The capital of the Confederate States was Richmond, Virginia. Generally speaking, the larger the slave population, the more support there was among whites for the Confederate government. Also, generally speaking, the further north you traveled in the Confederate States of America, the less support there was for the Confederate government. So, for a quick review, during the Civil War, the United States was divided into 2 parts. The Confederate States of America was made up of southern states that left the United States in order to protect slavery. The United States of America, on the other hand, was made up of free states, which were states where slavery was illegal, and the border states, which were slave states that remained loyal to the United States. And that's how the 2 sides were drawn up as the nation prepared itself for war in the spring of 1861.